I think it's. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Street Epistemology podcast. I am Chucky, and I'm here with Lisa. How's it going, Lisa?
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa. Glad to be here.
So, Street Epistemology podcast, we try to talk about all things street epistemology. We're here to answer your questions about it, hear your comments, your experiences with it, and hopefully engage in some live SE if we get some people calling in with claims. The link to call in should be pinned to the top of the comments. But in the meantime, we'll just talk a little bit and then ask for more callers later in the show. So I heard that. Sorry.
I just want to really encourage people to call in, because this is a really good introduction for new people who are figuring out, like, what is street epistemology, and hopefully we can get some good examples of just like practice it, maybe some really basic. So call in, let's give it a try, even if you're not even familiar. Like, we'll figure it out together.
Yeah. As more people come into the stream, I'll put another reminder out. We'll try to get people on.
Cool.
So I heard that you went out live this week in the park or something, or?
Yeah, Salt Lake City is kind of weird. Like, I didn't know like what to expect weather-wise, and it gets like warm for a couple of days and then it's cold. And then so like I make these plans. I've had to cancel twice now, but we actually went out last Thursday, me and Deb from my group, and she's attended the meetup several times, so she's been coming for a couple months. And a brand new guy showed up, so it was us three, and I had a table and chairs, and I brought note paper and my recording device, and it was cold, so I'm like, nobody's going to be here. And then it started to get windy, but I'm like, whatever, well, let's just try this out. We'll see what happens. It's like an adventure, an experiment. We'll just sit here for a while, and if nobody wants to talk, that's fine. So we set up, put a little sign that says, what do you believe and why? And I have some little clip-on mics, which were horrible with wind, so that was a fail.
Do you have little windscreens on them, or is that the problem?
Just like a little piece of foam. I don't know. I bought it at the store, and then I opened the package right there and plugged it in, like just to try it, because I don't have experience with it. But so we're setting up, we're just sitting there, and people are walking around, walking their dogs, doing their thing. And I would see somebody by themselves, and I just went up to them and I said, hey, do you have time for a little 10-minute interview? And the first guy said, he's like, absolutely, sure. That sounds.
Oh, wow.
You didn't even ask why. What?
Like, what is this for?
Who are you? Like, nothing. He just like.
Are you with the government?
Like, sure. Yeah, nothing at all. I guess I look non-threatening.
Did you have like a clipboard or anything to make you look official?
Yeah. Like,
okay.
There was some blank paper on the clipboard.
Some loose leaf.
Yeah, I wanted to look, at least present the idea that I was official. I was going to take notes on it, was the idea.
Yeah.
So, but it was just blank. And I do have some business cards I made with my name, and it says Street Epistemology, and my YouTube channel, which is The Road to Reflection. If anybody wants to subscribe, I'm getting pretty high up in the numbers, over 50 now.
Yeah, there's links down below.
Still. Yeah.
For anybody who wants to check it out.
Yeah, he just sat down and he's like, so what are we talking about today?
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, we want to talk about your beliefs and what you believe and why you believe it. And he's like, oh, I believe in God. Like, I don't know. Oh, yeah. First he said, I don't believe in God, but I want to talk about that. So he said, my claim is going to be God is not real. I'm like, okay, we can work with that.
So hold on, let me get it straight.
Interesting.
He believes in God, but he wanted to talk about the claim that there is no God?
At first he said, I believe in God, but I'm not sure. And then as he's kind of just processing it, he's like, I'm going to make the claim that God isn't real. And his percentage was 40% that God's not real, or he was at a 40 out of 0 to 100, that there is no God. And so just kind of
Interesting.
exploring that was fun. And he was
Did you
very
get the
willing
sense
and
that
open.
like he had already started to question his belief?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said he wasn't raised religious at all. So he was just, he had heard other people saying the reasons for their different God beliefs, and like they can't all be right. They could all be wrong, but he's like, I don't know. So just withholding judgment for now. So
Yeah.
he decreased his confidence as the conversation went on, or increased that God's not real, decreased that.
Right.
I don't know. Doing a negative claim always mixes me up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he said there's probably no gods. There are probably no gods by the end of the conversation.
Huh.
But he didn't put a specific number on it at the end. I forgot to
Sounds
ask.
like he was looking to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was interested.
Yeah.
And that was cool. So he left. I set the timer for 10 minutes. 10 minutes came and went, and he's like, I gotta get going. So thanks. And there's other people walking around. I see this other guy. I'm like, hey, do you have time for a little quick 10-minute interview? And he's like, sure. Like, so the next guy sits down. It was like,
wow,
30 seconds later. So we didn't have any problems like getting people to stop and sit with us.
Yeah.
And
did the three of you take turns, or did they mostly let you do it? Or
yeah,
okay.
Deb, the lady that has been coming to the meeting, she did the next interview with what was his ghosts on. That was about ghosts and spirits. And he was at 100% on that, and Deb did a really good job like asking him questions, but she also is at 85% that ghosts are real. So they're both really really believe it. But his reasons were other people's testimonies who have claimed to see, like people that he trusts.
Yeah.
So he's never seen one or had any experience himself.
Yeah.
So
interesting. And how did Deb enjoy it as much as you did?
Yeah, she likes doing it. She likes being questioned and challenged on her beliefs. She has not come down off that 85% for the last several months. So she doesn't change hers, which is fine. Like that's not even necessarily my goal in doing it. Yeah. And it was getting really cold and windy after this guy. And I'm like, let's just see if we can get one more. This is another guy walking by. I'm like, hey, do you have time for a 10-minute interview? He said, yeah, I do, actually. Sits down. I can't remember what we talked about. Just like, it wasn't really essay. It kind of just turned into a conversation about eternity and afterlife and truth and when do you believe stuff. And so that was interesting also. But
I think sometimes just going through the process and trying to understand someone's belief is just as helpful as, going through the epistemology.
Yeah. And he was like, nobody's ever asked me any of these kind of questions before. Like, it's really interesting to sit down and just give it some thought and see where am I at on this? I've never considered it.
Yeah.
So, and that was our whole day. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing. Yeah.
Even though it was cold and the recording is unusable, but it's still worth doing. It was a good first attempt, learned by failure, stuff like that. And keep going.
Yeah. That's
awesome. Do you
awesome.
get out? Do you do it in public?
I've never had a table or anything like that. Yeah. Most of the interviews that I've done are with friends and family. It's not that I'm against talking to strangers, but I definitely have an interest in what my friends and family believe, and so that's mostly been my focus.
Are your friends and family open to talking about it? How is that experience?
Yeah, so
that a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so it's complicated. I think anything with family is difficult. I think with my close family, mostly my father, it's pretty touch and go. But with that said, like I've had really good conversations with extended family, grandparents and cousins and things like that, where I really, to be honest, I had kind of low expectations going in, and
Yeah. Are
they,
are your
I
family
think,
religious? Or I
yeah,
know you.
yeah. My grandfather is actually, once he retired, he became a preacher, and
Oh,
he's always been incredibly religious, but and we've never really talked about religion. Like it would be one of these things where,
specifically.
yeah, like I'd come and visit and they would ask me, "Hey, have you found a church yet in your new town?" And it's like, not yet."
Still looking.
um, yeah, but um, but yeah, one day I called up my grandfather and I was like, um, "I know you want to talk about Jesus. Let's have a conversation." He was like, "Okay, let's do it." And
Yeah.
it went surprisingly well. Like I felt like at the end, you know, it's he's 88 years old. It's not that his confidence changed or anything necessarily, but I felt like we understood each other a lot better at the end of that conversation.
Wow.
And that, yeah, that kind of thing is just so meaningful because it's like I've always been afraid to try to have a conversation with him.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I assume, how does your family react to you losing your faith?
Mostly just don't talk about it. They
Yeah.
don't want to know.
Yeah.
They don't ask ever. I have some siblings who are a little bit more open and willing to talk about it. So I have there's 8 kids in my siblings. So we
Yeah.
have 4 in and 4 out still.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Oh, that's
it,
fascinating.
it's yeah, it's kind of confusing, but
Is it the younger people who've left, or is it like are there any
uh,
patterns to who's left?
in I'm the second oldest, so in, out, out, in, out, in, out.
It doesn't seem to be
So
much of
yeah,
a
I don't
pattern.
know. It's
Yeah,
spread out.
yeah,
It's weird how it works.
yeah,
And just the amount of avoidance. So like if it ever does, I'm happy to talk about it and I try to bring it
yeah.
up sometimes, but they
I think
just
that's the thing.
aren't
Like
interested.
what I'm always trying to tell people is, I think more people want to talk than you might think.
Mhm.
Like people are willing to have conversations if you sit down and you don't get into an argument, and you make that clear that you're not
Yes.
looking for an argument. You just want to help. You just want to try to understand where they're coming from better.
Yeah. And I wish
Uh,
they would ask and I try to
yeah,
ask them,
yeah.
but they
It
don't seem
reminds me of
open.
something.
So
Oh, sorry.
no, that's all.
It reminds me of something I heard on a podcast. That there's this Freakonomics book. They have all these podcasts now. Oh, we've
Yeah.
got Anthony on the line. Should we invite
Hey.
him on?
Heck yeah.
All right. Hi, Anthony.
Hello,
Hey.
Chucky. Hi,
Long
Lisa.
time listener, first
Welcome.
time caller.
I think this is my first time calling in. Yeah.
How's it going,
Oh.
Anthony?
It's going good. I started listening to your broadcast and then I jumped into a meeting so I missed like the last maybe 10 or 15 minutes of what you were talking about. But
Just been talking about
We're
doing
just
SE.
starting. So yeah.
doing SE. Yeah, I was hearing you explain, Lisa, that you started going out and doing some SE and then
Yeah.
immediately found people willing to sit down and talk with you.
Yeah,
right out of the gate.
we could have got more. We could have been there all day probably. Like nobody said no to me. I mean, I'm sure it'll happen at some point.
Yeah.
But it was a very positive experience and very rewarding, and just having people so willing to be open and just immediately sit down. And I don't know, maybe I look trustable, non-threatening. Yeah, but it was super fun.
That's
so we're
awesome.
definitely going to go out and do some more of it, and hopefully get less wind so we can have a recording to post.
Wind is always a challenge. Yeah. Are you going to the same spot as before or going to pick a different one?
No, there's a different spot. I think the place where we are, there's tons of foot traffic there, and it's a good place. Lots of people hang out and just picnic or walk around. There's like
Nice.
a playground and all kinds of things to do, but it's right by a busy road. So the street traffic is really loud.
Oh, yeah.
So that's less than ideal. I think we'll go to a different park or, I mean, there's tons of trails. It's Utah.
Yeah.
So,
Finding that right mix of like just enough people going by where it's not too noisy, and they're willing to they have a little time where they can stop is kind of the challenge. That's cool.
Yeah. Where's been the best place that you've gone? Like the best location wise?
My favorite place is the trail, because there's just enough foot traffic where people are walking by and they feel safe, but there's not too many people walking by where they can ignore you, because like you just blend in with all the other people. And the trail, it seems like that's where people go to exercise and to think in the first place. They're usually going there to get away, and maybe they don't know it at the time, but they usually do think about things on the trail.
Yeah.
Right.
So whether you catch them before or after, it's really beneficial to an SE type of talk. So
I always go out for a walk when something's weighing on my mind.
Do you?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Now the universities are good though too. Like the universities, the thing about the universities though, you get a lot of repeat talks because the students are, they see you there and whatever, and they're there at the campus all the time. Whereas a trail, you might just get one person one time and they go, unless it's a regular, you get your trail regular. So if you're looking for repeat conversations, then maybe a university is better than a trail. But personally, like if I had to pick one place, it would be the trail, just because I've noticed that I'm more calm on the trail than being anxious in a university with lots of young students walking by and,
worrying you're going to get arrested.
Yeah. And well, also, they didn't make it easy for me either when I was there, so I always felt like I was sort of on pins and needles a little bit more at the university. But,
is that a guy thing? Like, do you think I would have that as well? So I feel like I look like
it might be flipped.
Mom.
I wonder if it'd be flipped. Like maybe I'm guessing maybe a female would be more nervous on a trail where there's woods and there's less people.
That's what I'm thinking. I wouldn't do that by myself, but I would go to a college campus. I work at the University of Utah, so I feel very comfortable there.
I would just try both and see you'll notice differences in yourself as well as the engagements that you have, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure having the calmness at the trail of yourself probably helps like focus and be more present.
Yeah, personally, I think the conversations that I had at the trail were deeper maybe and like more human, just because I was more relaxed when I was conducting them as opposed to the university maybe. But yeah, I guess you just have to go and find what works best for you and just experiment.
There always seemed to be students who were worried about their next class or exam when you were on campus.
That was a little part of it. Maybe they were more under a time crunch. The thing about the school that was cool is that the students, I think, started talking about their interviews with other students. So there was a compounding effect.
So you could say, "Hey, go talk to that guy over there."
Yeah,
to your
or
friends.
or they see the gear piece, in their friend's bag or hanging from their keychain or whatever. And it's a conversation starter. So
I got to get some of those. Yeah, where do you get those?
That reminds me, I was actually planning to message you to see if you needed any shirts or those gear things for your excursions or even for the meetup group that you have. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay. Actually, I joined because I wanted to plug the course that's coming up, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been working really hard on this self-directed course to teach people how to do SE. And there's never been anything quite like it. There's been attempts in the past to like give the basics of what SE is, but we are going so deep into the almost too deep. Like we're going really into the minutia of it. But I mean, if you think about it, so we've chunked up the different modules to describe what SE is into 20 different sections. And we just finished module 1, which is called What is Street Epistemology? And it's about 50 pages long. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wait, just the question, what is street epistemology?
Just to explain what is street epistemology with 3 learning objectives, and there's probably 20 topics underneath those.
Oh boy.
And we wrote it, we rewrote it, we internally tested it, we ended up making more changes, but it's a big one because it's introducing the idea of we do still need module testers. We're going to be sending out an email and making a public post telling people how they can sign up for it in the coming days. Actually, if you want to do it now, just go to the streetepistemology.com website and go to course. And then at the top, you'll see an email address. If you just email that we'll get you on the list and we'll let you know. But yeah, we spent easily over a year putting together the content for that one module particularly, and it's ready for testing now by volunteers. So like if you're into SE and you care about the future of it, then this I think is a really important module to review and give us feedback on if you have the time.
Is there a simplified version of it? Because 50 pages on one question.
Maybe the Cliff Notes.
Someone had I know someone had the bright idea of creating a one-page summary of every module, and we're actually looking for somebody to help us with that. So if there's somebody in the listening audience that is really good at summarizing and they also have an eye for design, you theoretically could be given a sneak peek at these modules to construct like a one-pager so that we can make them. So, because what we're thinking is we can make the one-pagers, just sort of put those out there, just distribute them, share them, whatever, with a call to action to actually go and take the full course. So we'll
something like that would be good for my group when new people show up and they're like, I'm not even sure what this is, if I want to be here. But if I can give them like the shortened version and say, this is basically what it is. You don't have to do a deep dive into it, but check it out.
I think that would be helpful.
That would be really handy.
It'd probably be less intimidating than, read this 50-page document. But the thing is, we felt like we needed the detail because nobody's ever really sat down to describe what SE is and all the nuances and the ethics around it and all that stuff. So while it might seem like overkill, I don't think it's going to be overkill because it will be useful for other products and resources that will spawn off of it, I think.
For people who are interested in sinking their teeth into it, would you suggest that they go to the Discord, or is there a better place
for the course itself?
Yeah,
there's not really much discussion about the course aside from the team that's on the course talking about it.
You're just teasing it.
Is it on the website?
There is a channel on the SE Discord called Course Development, I think, and it is a public channel where you could, let's say you have a question about the course or something, there's not a lot of chatter there at the moment.
Where should I direct people, or where should we direct people if they're interested?
If they're interested, direct them to the Street Epistemology website under courses, and you'll see a breakdown of all the modules and the topics within, and then how to sign up to be a tester.
All right.
But that's all I really wanted to say. I love your show. I really enjoy it, and I know you guys are trying all different things to do on the show, and I hope it picks up. And any way that we can get these tools into the hands of people, I think is going to be helpful.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. Well,
excellent.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for calling, Anthony.
Okay. Good luck. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
All right.
That's cool. Have you looked at any of the course?
I've
been working on that?
I haven't, but everybody's always talking about it. I've put the link to the learning course in the chat. So if anyone, let me make sure I put it on. I only put it on YouTube. Let me put it on the other places we're streaming. So I think this is maybe a good time to do a reset. So those of you who are tuning in, this is the Street Epistemology call-in show, which means we're looking for callers. We're happy to take your calls. If you have questions about SE, maybe you've been trying stuff and you want to talk about how that's been going, or maybe you have a claim of your own and you want to try a Street Epistemology style conversation with one of us.
It's not a call-in show if we don't get any callers.
It's just a talk show. Yeah.
Let's get some people in here.
Yeah, I think we did this a couple of episodes ago. I think it might be a good idea. Do you have your list available? Otherwise, I can pull up a list.
Oh, the claim list
of claims. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be great to go through.
Kind of handy.
Yeah.
Where is it? Not that one.
Another thing that we were talking about doing, if anyone wants to try it, is Lisa or I could be the interlocutor, and one of you who wants to practice Street Epistemology can call in and try that with one of us.
Yeah. I love doing that. That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I have all sorts of claims that I want to explore.
Yeah. Astrology works. Crystals have healing powers. Ghosts or spirits are real. The law of attraction works. Gender is a social construct. Gender is binary. Extraterrestrials have visited Earth. Women should dress modestly. This is just some we came up with the group the other couple weeks ago. Women are more nurturing than men. God is real. Burning sage cleanses your living space. People have souls. Prayer works. There is an afterlife. We will be reincarnated. And we talked about tarot cards today. I think that would be a fun one to get into too, if anybody has experience with tarot cards.
Yeah.
I don't really, so it'd be fun to talk about.
Yeah, I have a secular, non-supernatural believing friend who's interested in tarot cards, who uses them, and she says that she doesn't believe that it does anything, but she sort of does it to, I don't know, maybe just to experiment or to get different ideas or something like that.
Yeah, I wonder if it like prompts your own creativity, your own ideas, and you can kind of interpret the pictures and say, this is what it means to me, this random card that was pulled up.
I think
you could do that with a lot of things. But
I like that idea. It's kind of reminds me of the idea that like it's really hard to be creative with no prompt whatsoever, but as soon as you're given a prompt, you can kind of riff off of it.
Yeah, like if you're trying to read someone's fortune or something, just making it up out of the blue would be like, I don't know, that'd be kind of fun to do too, but having a guide or being like, okay, the sun means I don't even know. So somebody would have to do that.
There's a couple that I've been tossing around recently. That, let's see, maybe this has been in the news. Maybe someone wants to talk about whether changing the time twice a day or twice a year, sorry, is actually beneficial to society. I think there's a bill in the Senate right now that passed to eliminate daylight savings. Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I don't know why that happens. I don't get that.
Yeah, me either. But maybe you have an opinion about this. Organic foods, premarital sex, civil rights. I think Lisa and I, between the two of us, are probably willing to talk about pretty much any belief you might have.
Well, and a couple weeks ago, I called in and asked, should I go back to college? And you guys used SE on my claim I should go back to college. So like even decision making, I do that with my kids.
And I think that was a fantastic conversation.
I don't know if it works as well. I don't know, but I appreciate it. It worked for me as the question answerer.
So one thing that I've been, sorry.
No, I'm done.
One thing that I've been more interested in exploring lately, and Anthony used to do this a little bit, was exploring fears with street epistemology.
Oh, I like that idea.
Yeah, fear of heights or fear of dogs or something like that. Like
phobias.
Yeah, sure, phobias. Or I had one. Fears, I mean, to maybe be a little personal. I have this sense, this feeling that I don't think is really justified, but I can't escape the feeling that I'm responsible for how other people feel. Oh. And I wish I didn't have this belief, but I do have this belief. And so,
you know, like if a responsibility for other people's feelings.
Right. Like if somebody gets upset, it's my fault. You know, I have this sort of reaction. And I think this is something that can be explored with SE. And I've actually talked with one of the SE people in the community about this. And I think it, you know, it's like, it helps put things into perspective. You know, like we have these feelings, maybe they're not justified, and you can explore maybe how justified you should be in thinking these things.
Yeah. So how did that go when you talked about it?
It's interesting,
who did you
right?
Talk about it with?
I spoke about it with Michael Mead, who has a channel. Oh crap! What's his channel called?
Was it recorded?
It was not recorded. No, it was a private
not
conversation.
Posted anywhere.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll look up his channel in just a second. I think it's called Live Well. I'm pretty sure it's called Live Well. Yeah, it's really interesting, right? Because, and I think this is probably true for people with strong religious beliefs, but I have the feeling, and the feeling is there.
Yeah.
You know, the feeling is real.
Feeling exists. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to realize that actually this feeling is not beneficial for me. And so it's very similar to a religious belief. And so to start to unpack that and to say, you know, in my conversation with Michael, like, I realized I was probably way too confident based on the evidence that I have.
What was your confidence in? What was the exact claim? Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to reveal all the details.
Get into it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe you and I can have this conversation directly if we don't get any callers. I'm willing to defend this belief again.
Oh boy.
But
not if it makes you uncomfortable and makes you feel like you're responsible to take care of other people's feelings. And
no.
Talk about it.
I think I could talk about it again. I just don't want to try to remember what I said. This was like 6 months ago. So
it's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah. So I'm not so sure about exactly what I spoke about with
Did
with
it
Michael.
Change your confidence at all level?
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, I think the feeling in the instant became a little less urgent. It became a little less severe. The belief still persisted, but it wasn't as demanding, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that was just by shedding a light on it and like trying to understand it? Or was it more than that? Because sometimes just saying it out loud and looking at it from the outside perspective almost makes you think, I've given it too much weight in my life.
I think it's a little of both. I mean, I think there's a reason why, you know, when we feel distressed, we go and we talk to our friends, you know, like that. Just being able to talk things out is helpful. But I think it's more than that. I think that I was actually made to come to face the fact that my feeling was stronger than I was justified in the feeling versus the belief. That's kind of how I break it down, right? It's like the feeling is there and maybe I can't do anything about it, but I don't have to trust it. Yeah.
Because feelings can be deceptive.
Yeah. So I want to encourage, I mean, we can keep talking about this, but I want to encourage people to call in. Maybe you're struggling with a thing. Maybe I was talking to a friend who thought that they were going to be fired. You know, and I think that's a perfect kind of claim to examine, like, what is your reasons for believing you're going to be fired? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly applicable to stuff that you just like, you're back and forth, like some of this, some of that. I don't know. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Ask me questions so I can understand it better.
Right.
And see where I'm at. So I like doing it on those kind of claims.
Peter's got a little advice for me. I appreciate the sentiment, Peter. So yeah,
what's the good Lord going to do with those?
So Peter, I've seen you in chat almost every time we've had one of these shows. I'd love to speak to you about a claim that you might have. You seem interested in street epistemology. I wonder if you'd like to maybe try it out. Or anybody else who wants to call in and talk about this. What are some other really nice examples? Because it's almost like there's this category of things that are just about our lived life. You know, it doesn't have to be a supernatural belief. It doesn't have to be even like a big political belief. Like your example was calling in and wondering if you should go back to college.
Decision making. Yeah. Applying it to just everyday Well, especially big decisions, but
right.
and just
And
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I think we're probably saying the same thing. It's like there's something about just examining these ideas with someone who's willing to sit there and listen to you, and I think it's helpful.
Yeah, it really is. And especially when I was talking about the college thing, like I would bring it up to friends and family, and they have their opinions, and you should do this, so you should not do that. And then having just somebody without their injecting their thoughts and feelings into the matter, then I can figure out for me, like, what do I want to do?
Yeah, I think that's such a it's something people really struggle with. If you go to a friend with a problem, people want to try to give you advice, and they want to try to tell you what to do. Yeah, they want to fix. I mean, and it's not like it's a bad thing. It's because they're empathetic and they're worried about you. But at the same time, I think it's helpful to have a conversation where somebody can step back and almost just parrot your feelings back to you, your thoughts, kind of a sounding board.
And just have the words I say repeated back to me. It was like, oh, I did say that.
Yeah.
Why did I say that?
But when you hear it from someone else's mouth, it sounds different. Yeah. It's one of my favorite things. One of my conversations, I repeated back verbatim what the other person said. And they were like,
really powerful.
Well, no.
Well, no.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's something about, there's a process of interpersonal conversation where I think it almost, this is armchair philosophizing, but it goes to that same place where it's really hard to give yourself advice, right? It's that same problem. It's much easier to think objectively about other people's situations.
When you don't have the investment and the consequences.
Right. Yeah. And the feelings. And the
fears and the
the fears.
Preferences and all of it. It gets mixed into decision making.
Yeah.
We don't know.
So Brenda wants to know, what is this? So this is a call-in show about street epistemology, which is a kind of kind way to have conversations where you explore someone's beliefs. And we're looking for people to call in with a belief. Maybe you think you're going to be fired soon, or maybe you have a belief about the supernatural or about government or anything. We're looking for people to call in and talk about it. I think I'm hearing a little bit of echo, Lisa. I'm not sure if that's
echo
on my, because it looks like we both have headphones, so I'm not sure what would be causing it. I don't know. Now I can't hear you at all. Okay.
Okay.
Any better? You're back.
Is it echoey still?
I'm not sure. I don't hear it yet.
Okay. I just unplugged it and replugged it. I don't know what else to do.
Let's see. So I asked Peter to call in. Peter says he's a brick wall type. Just get down to Jesus. Following along, understanding things, knowledge God, and all you do, He will guide your steps. Well, Peter, I obviously, if you don't want to call in, that's fine. But
no, I used to believe that as well. I get it.
Yeah. Brenda says, all of my beliefs are true. I think that's pretty common.
Congratulations.
Belief. Yeah. Maybe we can challenge that belief. I don't know. Have you ever, like, because I don't know. I think maybe you've sort of came across SE maybe in the last 6 months or so. It seems like is that right, or am I misunderstanding?
It's been a couple of years since I first started watching videos.
Okay.
And I would just listen to the videos.
So I wonder.
And then I started learning about it, and I'm like, I need to figure out how to get more involved.
So
that's when I started the group.
Yeah. Okay. So the group is okay. So since you've discovered SE, have you tried these? Like, has a friend come to you for advice, and have you found yourself going, maybe I should just ask him questions instead of
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
And I that's always been my style of communication, is just
interesting,
is asking questions. And even when I was in the church, I was like, the way I would teach the lessons, I would teach lessons every week to the youth. And I would just turn the lesson manual into various questions. So it's always been like, I've always thought that's more interesting, and try to help people figure out how to think. But when I ask the question,
can you give an example of that? Like what if the lesson is about God's generosity or something? What kinds of questions are you asking?
Well, there's one I remember offhand that's popping into my mind. It was about morality and like watching or not watching R-rated movies, but like very clean living, moral as defined by the LDS Church.
Right.
And so the questions were like, what are the benefits of living life morally? And what does morality mean to you?
Yeah.
How do you define morality without looking it up? And so just like kind of tossing around these ideas and turning into conversations. What do you think about that? So eventually I had to be honest and like, I don't think this is true. I have to go next level with this. But that's how I got out of religion, is just learning about confirmation bias.
Yeah. We've got a poll in chat now. Are all of your beliefs true? I think it's definitely the case that the things that you believe you think are true, otherwise you wouldn't believe them.
Yeah.
But like,
and what do you mean by true?
Yeah. Have you ever been mistaken? I think that's what's so fascinating to me. The more that I do this, the more all of my beliefs have moved towards 50%.
Yeah. You could go either way on any of them.
I mean, it's like, I think what it's done is it's given me the ability to kind of step back and be a little bit more neutral and be a little bit more like, I recognize that I have a strong feeling, but I'm not really sure that that feeling is justified.
Right.
Yeah.
Based on the feeling.
Right. Especially based on the feeling. Right. And I think especially for things like fears or worries, I think everybody deals with stress and stuff like that. And these feelings come sort of at us, and they're there for some kind of reason, but maybe that reason doesn't have to control us, I don't know. Maybe we're getting a little too close to therapy here, but I think
well, there is some overlap, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Trying to figure out why do I think this?
Going back to the question that you were talking about, where you were asking when you were giving these religious lessons, like, I think it's really important when you have a decision to make. You were talking about morality and watching R-rated films. I think sometimes people forget that decisions have pluses and minuses, and just kind of slowing down and going, what are the benefits? What are the costs? Mm-hmm. That alone is good to help get perspective.
And sometimes in religion, you get the really black and white thinking. This is good, this is bad. Yeah. All good or all bad. Yeah. Always do this, never do that.
Yeah.
And life is just not like that. There's so much gray in all the things. And so just opening your mind to being able to see the subtleties and the differences between black and white. Like there's not a good side and a bad side. People aren't bad. Like it just doesn't exist.
It's a real shame. I think, people make these decisions and then they beat themselves up over, oh, I made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I did a bad thing.
Yeah. It looks like most people in chat believe that not all of their beliefs are true, but we've actually got 1 in 5 people who do. But yeah, this is a perfect thing. So we've got a bunch of stuff in chat about it's good to believe on faith, and
is it?
Yeah, that's a very concrete claim that I think would be fantastic to explore together if you'd like, Brenda.
And I would have agreed with you not too long ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting to talk about faith. That's a fun one.
Yeah, yeah. That was certainly something to go back to earlier in the conversation when I approached my grandfather about his belief. Like, I think ultimately the bedrock for his belief was faith. And, I think we had a productive conversation about, what could you believe on faith? What other things could you believe on faith? And why don't you?
What do other people currently believe on faith that doesn't match up with your
belief? What would you say to a Muslim or a Hindu who believes based on faith? Yeah.
And they would argue the same thing. Faith is good. Faith keeps me active in this true thing.
But yeah, for people who are new to street epistemology, we're not really looking to have an argument, but we're interested in exploring your reasons for belief. So Brenda has called in. You want to take? All right.
Sure.
Hi, Brenda.
Hey, Brenda.
Good afternoon.
Hi, welcome.
Yes, I'm going to go with it is good, even desirable, to believe some things on faith.
Fantastic. Okay. Lisa, would you like to have a conversation?
Sure, I'll give it a shot. Why not?
All right, I'm going to try to hide myself.
Yeah.
You can't hide. You can't hide. We will find you.
We will hunt you down. So where are you from, Brenda? Do you mind saying?
Minnesota, United States.
Oh, nice. Have you always lived there? Are you from there?
Pretty much.
Yeah, very cool. So how come you decided to call in?
I was bored.
You're bored? How did you find the show? Have you watched this before?
I'm subbed.
What's that?
I'm subscribed to the channel.
Oh, to the channel. Okay.
Yeah.
You like street epistemology?
I have mixed feelings.
You're on the fence about it?
I think it can be a worthwhile practice, but sometimes I think that I'm unsure about how much it accomplishes, but I don't think that's, so I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
I think it can be worthwhile, but I think that you can have worthwhile conversations that are non-street epistemology approved.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Do you like debating?
I do.
Or arguing? Yeah, because sometimes people who prefer debating don't really like street epistemology and the other way around. But it's all good. Like, everybody's got their own personal style, right? And their own way of doing things.
Yeah, I've recently removed a number of social media apps from my devices.
Oh, yeah?
Because I was getting into it too much, and I felt it was consuming too much of my free time.
Yes.
And
it can be a time suck. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. So I probably shouldn't even be doing this, but we should.
But here you are anyways. And we're glad you called in. So that's pretty cool. Okay. So you were talking about faith. You think faith is a good thing?
I think that sometimes it's okay to have beliefs, a belief for which we have insufficient evidence.
Is that how you would define faith?
Yeah.
Would you define it as a belief without sufficient evidence? is faith?
Yes.
Okay.
There's some people who make a stronger claim. Aaron Ra makes the stronger claim. He says that faith is belief in spite of evidence to the contrary. And Peter Boghossian also makes a similar assertion that faith is when you believe something is true when you know that it isn't true. I'm not 100% sure of. I'm not going with
pretending to believe.
I'm not going with that definition.
Right. Okay. So for you, your definition is a belief without sufficient evidence.
Correct.
That's the one. What were you going to say?
Nothing.
Oh, I thought I interrupted you. Okay. Why do you think it's beneficial to believe something without sufficient evidence?
Because then you would be paralyzed.
You would?
If you only acted on beliefs for which you had certain knowledge, then you couldn't act on anything.
Do you think you need certain knowledge to act on something, or can you have like just enough knowledge to make a decision? Like you might not be able to know everything about a topic, but just enough to make a decision. Do you think certain knowledge is
well? I think
necessary?
that would be. I think that would be an acting on faith, right?
Well, you have some evidence. You have sufficient evidence to, I guess, right? Is that what you mean?
I think that would be.
So you might not have complete
so if
knowledge.
The truth is, what was your name again?
Lisa.
Lisa, is that it's most likely that you will never make a difference in the world, and your life will most likely amount to absolutely nothing. And if you actually believed in that, that would destroy your life. So you live and believe as though you will actually make a difference in the world when in fact, most likely you won't. Therefore, it's best for you to live a false belief that your life will have meaning and purpose when in fact it's most likely that nothing of the sort will happen. And that's what I mean. We have to live as though our lives are going to have some kind of purpose and meaning in the world. And it's most likely that for most people, they won't make any kind of difference to the world around them. And that if we went back in time and simply erased them out of existence, it would make no difference at all.
Right. So you're saying like the billions of people that have come before us.
And that's a very nihilistic view.
Only a few have made an impact.
Right. Yeah, it's a very nihilistic view, but I think it strikes me as being correct. And that's why I think it's good to believe some things that you know that you have to just believe in on faith. I think that's why intelligent people who I think such studies have shown that people who have a very realistic view of the world tend to be more depressed, and that people who are very easy to believe in things and have high degrees of religiosity have a better outlook, have better psychological outlook on life, that those people do better because they don't see the world truthfully. They see the world through faith-colored glasses, and they survive better and do better in life than people who otherwise.
So in your experience, you see that a belief in with a faith brings people meaning and purpose and helps them be happier,
Right.
provides comfort, provides a direction maybe for their lives that they wouldn't otherwise have.
Right. And a clear-eyed view of the world, you would not have that kind of faith in your own life. Nevertheless, we need that kind of faith to live and to do well.
So for you, Brenda, personally,
no, I would say
your faith bring
I'm
that?
cursed. I'm cursed. I am cursed with the ability to see clearly and utterly without bias or prejudice. And therefore, I'm extremely depressed.
Do you wish you had faith in something that could bring you meaning and purpose? Like, do you hope for that?
Yeah, I would like to make a difference in the world. I would like to contribute in some way to making the world a little better place. But it seems to me that that's really unlikely. But I distract myself from that kind of nihilistic viewpoint that would be corrosive in my life by distracting myself in other ways.
Is making a difference in the world really important to you? Is that something you value?
It seems to be something that I a desire that I have, that I just seem to have it. I don't know where it comes from, but I seem to just have it. I think if I didn't have it, I would be less of a person, right? I would be more sociopathic. I know I'm not a sociopath because I care about people, and because I care about people, but I also feel that I kind of tend to see things relatively clearly, that I care about people, but it depresses me because it feels to me like there's very little difference that can be done.
Right. So it's kind of frustrating and depressing that you feel like you don't have the impact that you would like to have?
Yes.
In the ideal world or whatever?
Yeah. If I could make some kind of difference, that would be great. And it could be anything. It could be making a contribution to the world as in its knowledge, or the world in some other way, but it doesn't seem to me to be very likely.
Do you know people who, or can imagine somebody who doesn't have that value, who's still, but also
I think those are the people that are
depressed?
I think those kinds of people that don't have those values, you tend to find them in prisons for having a string of crimes behind them.
Oh.
I tend to think that if you don't care about other people around you, you're going to take actions that would tend to put you into legal jeopardy. I mean, if I didn't care, I would do things that, that would probably be illegal because I wouldn't care.
Do you think there's a connection between the desire of wanting to make a difference in the world and caring it about people? Can you want to make a difference?
I think that is the connection. Yes. Yeah.
And
I think
really
I didn't
important.
care about if I didn't care about people, I wouldn't want to make a difference.
Yeah.
I think that is the connection. Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how to word this next question. Is it possible that you do make a difference in the world and you do impact people's lives, but you don't see the result of it, maybe immediately or even ever? Like you wouldn't see it yourself?
It doesn't seem likely to me.
Why do you think that would be?
I don't see any signs of it.
Of making a difference?
Yeah.
Even what about your immediate circle of coworkers, friends, family,
I don't have any of
neighbors?
those. I don't have any of those.
You fairly isolated?
Yeah, yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I'm pretty angry about that.
Is there a way, do you have control over
No,
that?
no, I don't have control over that.
I mean, because you're making connections right now. I just met you.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I like, you've impacted my life already. You've made a
yeah.
difference in
But
my life. This
it's
is the
like,
first time I've ever done this. This
I
is
mean,
really,
it's like twirling your toes in the Pacific Ocean. I mean,
uh-huh.
yes, you make a difference to the Pacific Ocean,
Mhm.
but not really. You know, you're
But what if
just
it makes a difference to you? Like meeting you has made a difference to me. And like,
maybe.
maybe I can't change the world, but I can still make connections and I can maybe change one life or
People routinely treat me like absolute shit.
that
If I would
sucks.
had
I'm
my
sorry to
way,
hear that.
I would. If I had my way, I would build a dome at the bottom of the ocean.
Like Atlantis.
Or maybe on Mars.
That'd be cool.
So I can talk in a pretty negative way without it actually being it's pretty compartmentalized. So I can say I am transgender, and my experience of that is that I have been and am systematically rejected by society, and pretty much abused on a virtually a daily basis by bigots, particularly over the internet. And I'm pretty fucking tired of it.
Yeah.
And they can burn in hell for all I care. Unfortunately, I don't believe in hell. And unfortunately, I actually care about the world. I don't like these people, but I do care
Right.
about the world. I care about other people.
Mhm.
I could probably care about you because you seem like a nice person and stuff. But
Yeah. I have a
other
transgender family member and
yeah,
I have seen this firsthand and it is unfair and it
yeah,
is
yeah,
horrible. Like the way
yeah,
they're treated is just, it pisses me off almost on a
yeah,
daily basis. Like,
yeah. So I'm
so
pretty upset about it, and
yeah.
I have a. However, I've had a lot of therapy, and I'm very aware.
Mhm.
Um, I can distinguish between how I feel
Mhm.
and how um, I uh, uh, how I reason about things.
Mhm.
So for instance, let me give you an example without trying to sound too self-congratulatory. I live in subsidized housing,
Mhm.
and a lot of times I play um, YouTube lectures and things like that, and
Yeah.
things over my computer speaker system.
Mhm.
And the woman above me has often complained, pounded on the floor, and come down and asked me to turn things down. And I get
Sure.
very angry at her, and I feel that it's unfair. I have a lot of feelings about that,
Mhm.
but I turn it down.
Out of respect.
Yes.
Because you're a decent person and you care about
Well,
other people's feelings.
yeah. So
Yeah. And you
so
treat
we're
other people how
yeah.
you would like to be treated.
Yeah, so I am aware, and so I try, especially if it's later in the night.
Mhm.
And the thing that happens is that voices can be booming and have a lot of bass, and I
Mhm.
believe it's that bass that's getting um, vibrating in this
Right.
crappy building, right?
Travels more.
It's traveling, and so I make an effort to check audio levels, because sometimes, because I am older, maybe sometimes, and also sometimes you just don't pay attention.
Right.
And the volume kind of just creeps up because you're just not considering. But I do consider it, and I do turn it down. Okay, so that's what I mean. So that was a long way of saying that I can feel really angry at somebody, and at the same time, and then make a distinction between how I feel about that person and what the right thing to do is. The right thing for me to do is to turn the music down. Right. Yeah. So that's what I mean. And so then when I say in here that I have these strong feelings about being misgendered and mistreated, no, I would say 51% not push the red button that would nuke them out of orbit. Most likely.
Right.
I would not push the button. See, you smile. That's funny. So that's my gallows humor. That's my main coping mechanism, is the humor. So
no, that's great. We have like 2 more minutes before we need to wrap it up. But no, this is great.
So
I appreciate your openness. Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, my belief is that people need to have illusionary beliefs in order to survive. And that a completely nihilistic view of the world, which is probably correct, would be corrosive for the individual and the society at large. Nevertheless, I believe I'm a full-going non-believer. I think it's just atoms and the void, and then comes the heat death of the universe and everything we've ever done, and the sun expands and burns up the entire earth, and everything we've ever done is just a complete waste of time. But it's okay. That's my belief.
You didn't ask me, but I think it is okay, because today matters, and our families matter, and our people that we connect with matter. These things all make a difference in the world. And talking to you today matters. Like this is what matters, and whatever happens after we die is going to happen. Like we have no control over that.
It can be hard to see that. So basically, you agree with me then that we should believe some things on faith.
I would probably disagree, but call back again.
I think you agree.
Do another
with
show
me.
And we'll get back into it.
I think you agree with me.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. I really appreciate your time and your being open today.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Okay.
Bye. What a sweetie.
That was a powerful conversation.
Yeah, I like how open she was. That was amazing.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a private conversation made public.
Yeah.
I feel like she certainly, told you what she thinks without hiding anything.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
I like hearing that stuff. That's why I do this. I love it when people feel comfortable enough to open up and just be honest and just say, hey, here's where I'm at.
Yeah. It goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like it's not about changing people's minds or getting them to believe in something in particular. Sometimes people just need to try exploring a belief and to have the time and the space to
without judgment, without trying to convince you where you're wrong.
Right.
Gaining clarity.
Yeah. So I hope Brenda goes back and looks through all the comments. There's lots of nice comments in chat.
Oh, good. I haven't checked any of the comments.
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of contradicting Brenda, I think Brenda has made an impact on all of our lives in some way.
For real.
Yeah. But we've also got.
She's right, though. It is hard to see that sometimes.
Yes.
It can get really difficult.
Yeah.
To like look past.
I think something a lot of people without faith struggle with is understanding, what's the meaning of life.
Right.
Yeah. And it can be difficult.
Without this, what is there?
Yeah.
Like this answers the questions. Yeah. And I don't have the answers, and that's scary.
Yeah, I think isn't this a fantastic example of like, I'm not even sure what I would replace Brenda's belief with, right? I don't know what the solution to this conundrum is.
I can't tell her, hey, here's the replacement.
Yeah, right. Like it would be nice if you could be like, oh well, if you you walk up this mountain and you'll find enlightenment or something like that. But there's no easy solution to this stuff.
It's Scientology. It's clearly
right.
Whatever answer. What were you going to say a second ago?
I was just going to say we have a lot of other comments in chat of people making counterclaims and similar claims. JimBob says all beliefs are based on faith. I think that's a very interesting claim. So to sort of step back, so this is the SE call-in show. We're looking for people to call in. We just spoke with Brenda, and we'd love for any of you to call in with claims. Maybe listening to Brenda's discussion with Lisa made you think of something, or similar claim, like JimBob says.
I hope she reads the comments.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah, these are good.
Peter was saying being a Christian is advantageous because they do have a sort of a reason.
Yep.
And I think
I get that. 100% get that.
Yeah.
Purpose.
So yeah, if anybody else wants to talk about something like that, I think hopefully that sort of gives you an idea. Like, we're not looking to argue or, butt heads. Just want to help you explore something that you think.
Oh, Brenda's in chat. Good.
Yeah. So yeah, JimBob, would you be interested in calling in and talking about all beliefs are based on faith? I'd be interested in exploring that with you.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
But yeah, otherwise, I know it might be a little strange and stop if you're not comfortable with this. But do you want to talk about maybe how you felt about the conversation, Lisa?
Sure. Yeah. I'm really nervous because this is my first time doing this kind of thing. Like I was on the call-in show, but I didn't actually talk to anybody live. And I feel like I'm really a beginner at doing this, and I always forget what to say. And I feel like it's all about me. And I realize it's not about me. And I need to remove myself from worrying about saying the wrong thing or sounding a certain way. But that's just my reality and how I think of things. So I kind of had to consciously, as I'm going, make myself calm down and just try to be present and try to listen. And I did take some notes while she was talking to try to remind myself. It a question popped up into my head. I didn't want to interrupt right then, so I'd write it down. So I find that's helpful for me to do. But being present and available and listening, and then remembering to repeat it back. I forget to do that a lot of times too. And I'll just move on to the next question, or this one and this one and this one. But trying to really understand where she was coming from and understand what she was saying was really good practice for me. And I really enjoyed listening to her and improving and getting better, and hearing her story and hearing her thoughts and her comments and just listening to her perspective. And it, a lot of the things that really resonate with me and make a lot of sense. And I get that. And I do have attachments to a lot of her feelings and the way she expressed it. I thought that was really beautiful.
You mentioned you had a family member
amazing.
Who is maybe struggling with similar kinds of problems.
Yeah, and I see it, and I'm involved with it daily, and I see the way religious community treats these just normal, beautiful, decent, good people who just want to be another person out in the world. But the judgment and the hate that they get is just horrible.
Yeah. One of the things that I realized when I was talking to family was, I think a lot of people maybe don't feel like they have anybody to talk to about certain things, like they feel like if they talk about a belief they have or even an experience, I mean, it doesn't even have to be about challenging beliefs. Like I think people just want more communication and more talk in this world, and sometimes it feels like all anybody wants to do is argue.
And just the validation a person gets from being seen, being heard, being understood cannot be undervalued or underestimated. Like, that is so important, especially if you're struggling with these big life decisions and big life-changing, life impact, and just the different things that people go through, and having nobody to understand, to pay attention, to listen to you, to like see where you are. I mean, I guess that's what therapy is for, but like, you don't have to go to a therapist if you are able to feel understood and validated.
Yeah. To be fair, we're not making any particular medical suggestions or anything.
Go to a therapist if you need a therapist, please. Like, I've gotten a lot of value from therapy. Like,
yes.
Please get help if you need help. Absolutely.
Seek help in all directions.
Yeah, from wherever you find it. But I really like that we can be there for people just as friends.
Exactly. It's
on a human level.
I think this is a claim, but people are social animals. We get a lot out of talking to people, and I think even people who are introverted or feel isolated, I think a lot of people are craving interaction. And
and that broke my heart when Brenda was talking about not having that family connection and not having just a friend network support.
You can see it.
Like, it's really
you can see it as a call to. Sorry.
That's it.
You can see it as a call to action. Like, I think there's nothing stopping everyone in chat right now from calling their brother or calling their father or calling their aunt and saying, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, what's going on with you?
How have you been?
Check
in.
Like, these SE conversations start with conversations, and maybe they say something that catches your ear, and you can ask them, like, do you mind me asking you some questions about that? That's how I started the conversation with my cousin, who was vaccine hesitant. And I was saying, do you mind if we explore that together? And she was interested in that. So we've actually got a caller, JimBob.
All right.
Let's see what JimBob's got to say.
Hi, JimBob.
How's it going?
Welcome.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Excellent.
I've interacted with Brenda before. She's jumped on my stream a couple times. So I wanted to let Brenda know that you actually did make a difference with me in just interacting with people with pretty opposing views and being able to be cordial. I can't, again, speak for my entire chat, of course, but for myself, so just so you know that. But then you'd have to believe that, right? Then you'd have to come out of that we're just molecules and there's a, pitiless void called the universe. You'd have to accept that you've made a difference. And so
you'd have to take our words for it. Yeah.
Right. It goes both ways. And that would be faith-based, wouldn't it? There would be no evidence that a difference was made, there would be evidence of things occurring, and then we would describe those things. But making a difference, that seems to be really embedded in us. It's almost as if there's no way around some level of just faith right from the start, for any given worldview.
I don't know if that's the claim that you want to explore, JimBob, but I guess it seems to me that there may be some evidence, because we have people in chat who were saying that their lives have been impacted.
Right. Those would be more claims, though.
I see. So you're saying those are claims, not evidence. Okay.
Yeah. Are claims not evidence?
I don't know. I mean, we get
personal testimony is a type of evidence, isn't it?
I guess. But then it would be like, is it evidence, or is it an indication that someone believes it to be so? Right. I mean, when we think about what evidence is, as far as like how we normally interact with evidence, is usually in the empiricist view or the scientific view, where we're just observing things happening and then we can describe them. But something called making a difference, someone could invent making a difference is like deleting half the world's population, right? And so you can get a chat going, you made a difference, like the depopulation, you made a difference. And so then we're still based in a faith system of what we argue is equal to making a difference, right?
So JimBob, let me know. Don't let me step on your toes if you have a particular claim, but I kind of hear you making the claim that personal testimony is not evidence, or perhaps that we can't use the things other people tell us as evidence. Would you like to talk about that belief, or maybe make it more clear?
I think maybe, I'm not sure what the alternative word is. Maybe you can help me if there was an alternative word. I mean, I use the word indicator, but evidence, I don't know that, because it starts from another worldview that's faith-based. The faith-based view is that there's such a thing as making a difference, right? First.
So if I remember right, you said in chat, all beliefs are based on faith. Would you like to explore that?
Right. Yeah. All beliefs are based in faith, because the fundamental starting point for any.
Before we get ahead of ourselves, should you and I have a street epistemology style conversation based on that?
Sure.
Okay, excellent. All right, I'm gonna kick you out, Lisa, just for now. Oh, actually, how do I even do that? Oh, wrong one.
Almost.
Here we go. All right, JimBob. So I hear you making the claim that, let's see, how did you say it? All beliefs are based on faith. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, let me put it up on the screen so that people can see it. Okay. So what do you mean? Let's just make sure we agree on the definition of faith. What do you mean by faith?
We could go with sort of a view without evidence. You could say a claim without evidence. I mean, what would you like to use? What's the common? Is that pretty common?
I'm happy to use whatever you mean by the word. I mean, you came with the claim, so I'm not going to give you a definition.
Yeah, I would say you believe a belief. A faith-based belief is something that fundamentally it's without evidence. So there's a level of confidence in it, or there might be even a level of pragmatism that one might argue justifies believing in such a thing. And so we can go with that. Yeah.
Okay, so to reword it and see if this still makes sense to you, all beliefs are not justified?
No, because then we'd have to then get into on which systems do people justify? Some people just justify.
How about all beliefs are able to be questioned? Is that where you're going, or is it?
I would say all beliefs require some level of faith. Maybe there's like, we can start from different bricks of starting points, right? And someone might be like, well, I got to start with an axiom. It's like, obviously we know we can't We don't need to justify these starting points. Otherwise, we can't even have a conversation. So, pragmatically,
Okay.
can we grant that, right? And so I'm pretty much pointing to the starting point, right?
So
the
all
starting
beliefs
point.
require some degree of faith.
Yeah, at their fundamental starting points, right? Because
all right. Let me see
if
I can try saying this back to you a different way to make sure we're really on the same page. So
okay.
Would you say this is the same thing as saying that it's impossible to be 100% confident about things? Is that the same meaning? I'm just trying to get on the same page as you,
No, because that might be, when you say that, it almost brings it into, I don't know, the proper philosophical framework to put it into a category where it's like, it's, confidence about things to me is subsequent to the fundamental starting point of what's required in belief to even get to confidence, right? So I think confidence
let's be concrete.
Okay.
Since we're not quite on the same page, let's try to be concrete. Like, let's take a simple belief.
Right.
How
about let's just go to what I believe the core, as far back as we can rewind, right?
Okay.
That beliefs exist. Like in other words, a belief in a belief, like a meta analysis of belief itself.
Let's try to keep it concrete and not abstract, because I'm not a philosopher. So I just like, let's pick a belief like the sun will come up tomorrow.
Right. Faith. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and I'm hearing you say that a belief like the sun will come up tomorrow requires some degree of faith. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah. You have faith. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me where that faith is in that belief, or like what part of that belief comes from faith?
You don't have any access to tomorrow, and so you have faith that today will be like tomorrow. You have some faith that today is similar in a lot of ways to yesterday, or will be. So today will be like yesterday, tomorrow will be like today.
Okay. So I guess the important question that I have to make sure I get what you're saying is like, how much of that belief is based on faith? Like, is it a little bit, or is it a lot?
It's all faith, because we can't know tomorrow. It could just go out of whack, right? Any day.
Interesting.
Something might hit, something, the sun might burn out. Like that. It's not, we base like, oh, it's not likely because of the past, but I don't even think that's necessarily, that might be like a probabilistic thing, but it's still faith-based, that you're putting faith in probability then, right? So you're always transferring faith over to some other model to go, well, it still makes sense to me that tomorrow is likely not going to just phase out of existence.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sort of hearing you shift to talking about faith as if it meant trust. Whereas before I thought you were talking about faith as meaning unjustified belief.
Well, yeah, but but you removed it out of the abstract. So if you bring it into concrete, we're talking about some level of confidence or trust, right? Because if we go further back, we'd have to have faith that we're properly observing reality. So it's like, we would have to assume that these regularities didn't go out, and we're actually seeing the version of reality that's occurring, right? And so that pushes it back. So if you don't allow the abstract, which is really what I'm arguing, is that you start from all of these fundamentals that really aren't based in the external world. We start from being able to even discern anything, right? And we have faith that we're discerning anything at all before we get into the sun, things occurring and not occurring. What's the likelihood of them occurring? We're already utilizing things we have faith in, right? Meaning, language. We all have faith in language. Like if you took the nihilist view that all is just material and atoms bashing together and these kinds of things, then we're really just playing. If that's actually true, then singing or saying things and talking is really just sort of like this passive expression that doesn't really mean anything, but we just happen to understand each other's words, right? But they're not they're not actual. So, right?
JimBob, do you mind if I ask you a hypothetical?
Sure.
because I hear what you're saying, and I think if I can repeat it back, I think the idea is that it's if we say that we have evidence for something, we have to trust that that evidence is reliable, and so therefore, kind of ultimately, everything comes down to this sort of guess or hope or.
No, I would say it's even before that, because when you talk about reliability, you're already interacting with a system that you're making.
Let me
those
try the
categories,
hypothetical.
right?
Let me try the hypothetical, because this seems very up in the air, and I want to make it concrete because, yeah.
But
like,
is there anything about faith that's concrete? We're talking about faith, right? And beliefs. Is there anything about a belief that's actually concrete, other than observing the present and then making some level of a prediction about the future?
That's what I want to try to get to with my hypothetical. Like, do you think that if you jumped out of a tree, you'd fly or you'd hit the ground?
I would trust that I hit the ground.
Okay.
And so
I guess, like, from what I'm hearing, you might conclude that you don't know what would happen.
If I were honest, yeah, because there's a possibility it wouldn't happen, right?
So let me ask you this.
Unlikely.
So this is the hypothetical. Like, as you go about your life day to day, what is it? What process is it that helps you determine which of these two sort of faith-based conclusions to conclude? Because you could live your life as if when you jumped out of the tree you flew around. It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's possible that might happen. But something in your life causes you to lead your life in such a way that traffic is dangerous, lightning storms are dangerous, heights are dangerous. So what is it that actually gets you to act in that way?
Regularity in nature and the laws of physics are fairly consistent.
How reliable are those things?
Well, I'd have to have faith that I'm accurately perceiving them. So then we're back to faith. So it's like some people don't perceive them as well or as consistently as other people. So, it kind of goes back to the beginning. The person perceiving it would have to be like, those are likely to happen. Some people go, they're not. There's even instances where people just like luck out or something, and it doesn't go the way we thought it would.
Do you think there's a way to figure out whether your process of observing the world works okay?
Works.
Like I hear you concerned.
Well, work is basically work entails some level of arbitrary goals. So it's like what works toward what.
Do you believe in an objective reality? Maybe that's what I should have asked from the beginning. Yes. Okay. And so do you think there's a way to figure out whether your perceptions match reality? To make you more confident.
At least, in the physical, we can sort of play around with the physicality, and I can cut myself 3 times on my fingers, and if it produces relatively the same result, I can go, well, it's likely if I cut the 3rd one, it's probably also going to bleed and hurt a little bit. And so, those are that's a useful way to test reality. But it's also, we're still not getting out of faith, though. We're still getting into that there is a cause and effect relationship that'll hold true. And it's almost like we're always on the brink of affirming it with the next available action, but we couldn't possibly be absolutely certain of the outcome. But it feels like it. There's enough that we really feel it in our bones that like, no, it's likely, like if you cut yourself and I cut myself with the same tool and everything like that, it'll be pretty similar, right?
Yeah, I hope this doesn't come across as being disingenuous, but it kind of sounds like we're back to the idea that, and I heard you say that this is not what you're saying earlier, so I'm worried.
Right.
But it kind of sounds we're back to the idea that what the claim you're really making is we can't be certain about anything.
No.
But I heard you say that you can be more confident in things just a minute ago. So like I'm trying to figure out this discrepancy between your actions in the world and like how you figure out that traffic is dangerous versus your uncertainty about your perceptions and things like that.
Right. Yeah, we have faith in our perceptions. Sometimes our perceptions are, we didn't see the car. And that's not a lack in faith of the regularity of what a car does to you, but that's a blip in your own. So in a way, we have faith in our own perceptions, and that's I don't know if it might be inseparable from the causal results that we see in the physical world. But what's interesting is that once your perception fails you, do you have less faith in yourself, or do you have less faith in reality, the external world? It's probably the former more so, right? Where you go, well, I don't have faith in my own perception. And then what do you use to navigate the world if you're seeing things that aren't there, or not seeing something that is there? That brings into question how any of us actually navigate the world, because in that case, the regularity of nature and physics is irrelevant, because the perceiver it's not about faith in those things anymore. It's about faith in your own ability to discern it. So if we were in such a horrific state, you and I were walking down the street getting coffee, and we both were like, oh, we have this weird thing where we don't see cars. Like, it's horrible. We would then have faith in someone else to guide, or some other system that maybe gave us like pelts of sound wave to our body, right? Or something like that. We would both be clicking, right, to navigate. And we would have
echolocation.
Right. And we'd have faith then in that system and then if that broke down, we would keep moving over. And so there's this like, it's almost like the external world and our perception and our ability to navigate it are sort of tied together. But we're still left with my claim is that I don't think anyone could give an example of a belief that you can't find some level of fundamental faith in something, in at least a starting point.
Yeah.
If you could give an example, I mean, that would really make me think. But I
definitely hear that we have to trust our senses, and we have to trust our memory, and we have to trust like the idea that things that happened in the past are likely to happen in the future. But the question, the sort of the fundamental question that I have for you is, are we really believing these things that I just listed without reason? Like maybe another way to ask that is there anything you could experience that might make you think that your perception wasn't working right?
But I think you might be shifting over what the variable is there, because faith, I don't think, is something without reason. I think that's fine. Reason's fine.
I thought I understood that you meant faith to be believing in something that was without unsubstantiated.
Evidence. Yeah, without evidence. But I mean, you could have reasons for things, and you could have good reasons or bad reasons, and so I don't think reasoning is equal to evidence.
Okay, sure, that's fair. Let me try from a sort of a different angle, because I'm not quite sure I understand the scope of your claim. Is this something that worries you day to day?
No.
Okay. How would your life be different if you didn't have this belief?
I couldn't know, because my fundamental starting point is that we require belief. So I'd have to believe something to even come to a conclusion about that. So the fundamental starting point is there's no conclusion we can come to that doesn't require a starting point of faith. That's my claim.
So it sounds like this belief doesn't worry you or concern you. You don't go around worrying that tomorrow's not going to work the same way yesterday worked.
No, I don't think. I mean, if I get into like some fear spiral about like, suddenly something occurs, whether it's human made or like some gust of unknown magnetic particles like close down the system, or, I could fantasize about that, but to have fear or worry, I would be placing faith in that. Right. And so any kind of fear as well, even if it didn't worry me, if I wasn't worried, that would be faith-based. If I was worried, it would be some future I'm interacting with that didn't exist yet or doesn't exist, or I thought up in my head that might happen. And so even fear in this case would be faith-based.
Okay. I think the question that I can't escape is, what is the utility in holding a belief that doesn't seem to affect your actions? It doesn't seem to affect your other beliefs.
I mean, there is utility. It's pure. From a strict like materialist view, it's pure utility. In fact, it would be like, well, we just follow these things because they're necessary to sort of like interact in the world and kind of get on in our life. And so I don't see where you would get that there's no utility. There's
so utility in the belief itself. Like and maybe this is just a sort of, I don't really understand where you're coming from.
Say the
belief. I apologize.
Can you say the belief specifically?
The belief that faith is inherent in our beliefs.
Well, if there wasn't a utility, it doesn't necessarily entail that that's the case or not, right? It's just
no. But I heard you say that if you have this belief, or if you didn't have this belief, you wouldn't act differently.
If you had the belief of that beliefs require faith.
Right. Yeah. I thought I had asked you, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought I said, how does this actually impact your life? And you said, yeah, well, it doesn't.
Well, no, the answer would be no. The answer is that you couldn't come to any conclusion about the alternative because you'd still be based in belief. So it just brings it back to the first question, whether all beliefs require some degree of faith. I mean, the going into the utility of why that's useful or not, or whether I would behave differently, we're just back to, it's begging the question, because we're back to did I arrive at that conclusion based on faith or not? Do I now believe that it's neither here nor there, believing that beliefs require faith, right? So that's my fundamental start. That's like, so we're
coming up on time.
That's the basis of my position. Now, I mean, the question is, can you think of an example of a belief that doesn't require some level of faith in something?
I think the way that you've defined faith and the way that you see justification, I think you've convinced me. I mean, I hate to say that in an SE conversation, but sure, everything involves faith. But I'm trying to turn it around, and I'm trying to say, it doesn't seem that that's an actionable belief, or like, I don't see how it, like, without that belief, my life is the exact same as with that belief. And so it kind of is like, there's no way to test it.
Right.
There's no way to falsify this belief. And so, but we're at 20 minutes, so I don't want to make.
But just the last part is like what.
Okay.
You just said.
Please have the last word.
I think the important thing is what you just said, because that's a great question. Figuring out what, would we behave differently or not? But the point is that even if you came to the conclusion that you wouldn't behave differently, again, we're still, I think you get this. It's just that we're back to, now, do I believe that that's the case? And I know, this gets into like endless regress and stuff. And this is like, probably a part of the, what do you guys call it? Forgive me if it's like where you start questioning epistemic justification, you end up like in nihilism or solipsism or something else. I forgot the name. Yeah. But and everything can go this way. And a lot of times the frustration is, well, can't we just start from taking a bunch of things for granted, so that we can then, explore the reality that we're in. And what I'm saying is, any starting point, we're already being like, oh, there's meaning exists. You and I are actually talking and we're trying to get to the truth of something. Like, we believe in that. We believe that that's occurring on this little screen of ours. I really believe that. I don't think it's an illusion. I reject that. Right. And so that's pretty much where I stand, is like, wow, if you just keep pulling back the layers, there's always this starting point. I mean, you can even go like, I believe I'm not, the cliche, I'm not a brain in a vat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think where we've come,
thank you. Sorry.
Where we've come to at the very least is, I think I heard you say that this isn't something that you worry about. And so, like, maybe this is a belief that doesn't really, like, on the one hand, I hear you saying that this belief is fundamental. And on the other hand, I'm also hearing you say, like, it doesn't really change things. And so it doesn't seem like,
it's like you want it to change something, though, right? Because it's like a fundamental tipping point of something, and then you'd want it to.
I guess what I mean is, like, if I believe that the world is going to end tomorrow, I'm going to act differently. But
yeah, people behave.
If I believe,
right.
But if I believe that some beliefs don't require faith, I don't think I would act differently. Like, I kind of just have to accept.
Right. No, I would. Yeah. I agree with you. I think
perceptions and things like that.
Right. I think that would be a different kind of route of the dialogue. Yeah. It's an interesting route, because I agree with you that people behave consistent with how the world occurs to them. And so if the world occurs a certain way to them, they behave accordingly. Now, that doesn't mean the world occurring to them is the way the world is, but nonetheless, people generally behave consistent with how the world is occurring to them. And so that's like one of those phenomenons that do they believe the world's occurring to them, or is it really occurring to them? Is it really occurring to them? And then we get into the question of, like, no, the world's occurring like this to me, and you can't tell me otherwise. And then someone, Lisa comes on and goes, actually, JimBob, the world's not occurring to you that way. And then you're like, well, whose brain is right? Who's correct? And then how do we test that? And is the way the world occurred to us strictly how we interact with the physical external world? I don't think so, because, like Lisa's great conversation before this, we interact also with these metaphysical things called things mattering, and people and caring and love and compassion and forgiveness and all of these things that are definitely not found in a tree. They're definitely not found in a rock, but yet we have faith in them in order to interact. Otherwise, like Brenda said, she might just flip out and hit the button, or I might just, start cursing at you. It doesn't matter, you guys. It doesn't matter how I treat you. Like, there's no
JimBob. I appreciate your call. I hope that this was a somewhat productive conversation, that we didn't butt heads too much. But thanks for calling.
Thanks.
And
thanks.
Yep. So yeah, I'm a little concerned about the time.
Interesting.
It was I think that could have gone on for a lot longer, and so I apologize if that was a little abrupt, JimBob, but I just want to make sure we have time for everything. I think it really raises some big questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone worries sometimes about their perceptions and about their memory. I'm all the time not trusting my memory these days.
Right. The accuracy of your own perception. And then like you're with a friend and they experience the same thing at the same time, and you talk about it later and you're like,
right,
were we
totally
at
different.
the same place?
Yeah.
Another thing I thought of, like, I want to get your thoughts on, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Like, where does hope play into this? I know sometimes people use hope as a definition of faith, and it's like some of the things he was saying were like making me think, well, you have to hope that this happens, and then that's faith. Just that distinction. I don't think it came up that I heard, but I was wondering about that too.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, it's one of these things, right, where I think, and I think I said this in the discussion, which is something that probably you shouldn't do when you're having these discussions. But I think I have to agree with him. The question that I have is just, is it something we should seek? Or I don't, it's very nebulous. I have a hard time sort of grabbing it in my hand or head and like inspecting it.
This is why the definitions are so important in straight epistemology in general, because Brenda's definition of faith was completely different than JimBob's definition. So like they could both be right using different definitions and coming to that understanding. If we're talking about the same thing, then that needs to be clarified. So
yes. Yeah. I think maybe we even sort of went to a couple of definitions of faith within the conversation. Although maybe that's being uncharitable. But yeah, I think it's one of these things where everyone's run into this sort of solipsism kind of wall where someone starts saying, but couldn't the universe have been created yesterday? Or I guess I just don't really understand what we're to gain from thinking about this. Like at the end of the day, and I hope this is justified, but I heard JimBob saying, right, he still thinks that if he walks out in traffic, he's going to be hit by a car. And so like,
and why would he think that?
Exactly. Like maybe the solution to this conundrum is to try to minimize the number of things that are justified based on faith. And like the idea that my perceptions or perceiving reality is one such assumption we have to make. But even that, it can be challenged, like if I look around the room and suddenly this wall looks red to me when it used to be white, I might start going, oh shit, did I eat a mushroom or something? Or like, what, I don't have to assume
explanations.
Yeah. And I guess I would say, and this is an argument, but I guess I'd say like, because I can come to disbelieve my perceptions, I'm not sure that faith is an important component to my belief.
Right.
Like, if that wall suddenly turned red, I actually would start doubting my perceptions.
But if your definition of faith is trust, like you can trust your perceptions up to a certain level, and your confidence can be appropriately weighed. Like I have this much perception because I did just take mushrooms, so I'm going to give a very low confidence level that my perceptions are accurate.
Right.
Or I saw Chris Angel in Las Vegas, and he's doing like I saw him do these things with my own eyes,
levitate,
and it was amazing. And I was like, wow, I saw that. But my perception was not to be trusted in that instance. So.
It's interesting. I mean, I at the end of the day, like I don't think you can build, an unassailable argument about everything. Like, because we kind of touched on that a few times. Like maybe what he's trying to say is that you can't be at 100%. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But I feel like we can test whether or not things are repeatable, and we can test whether or not our perceptions are reliable and things like that. And so how much faith is there left is my question, I guess. Seems like it's just a little bit of faith.
Doesn't a lot depend on the belief itself and how much faith you're using versus what you're attributing to evidence? Like if you have zero evidence, or you're using faith in spite of evidence, like the opposite of it. And what does that belief system do to you? Is it a high demand religious belief that you need to use faith and that changes every aspect of your life? Like that use of faith makes a bigger difference than your wall is red.
I think the question I should have asked him, and of course I'm thinking of it now, is if you had two beliefs you could believe, and one of them used more faith and one of them used less faith, which would you prefer?
That would have been an interesting question.
I think I really flubbed it, missing that, but
I always think of great questions later.
Afterwards, yeah. So we actually have a caller. Should we take a call in the last 5 minutes, just to maybe with a comment?
Yeah, I've got to get going in 5 minutes, but it's quick. Yeah.
All right, Roddy, welcome to the stream.
Gorgeous.
Hi.
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 Hi, Roddy.
This will be a short one, so maybe it's a good one to end on.
Excellent.
I've got a question for both of you, specifically as you have been practicing SD.
Okay.
When someone gives the claim that they want to discuss, it's possible that claim can have no value to you at all. In what I mean is that maybe that's a claim that you haven't even considered or thought about much in your life. It doesn't a subject that doesn't necessarily have any impact to you.
To me,
compared
personally?
Yes, right. Well, someone could also make a claim where that subject or that claim is something that has an impact on you, something maybe you've dealt with or something you've thought about. Comparing those two situations, do you find it challenging or different from one situation to another to not have an agenda, to not connect with your agenda of if their claim is different than how you look at the subject? Do you find yourself questioning in a way that you would kind of like to convince them to see your way, even though you're not necessarily intending it? If any of that makes sense, if I just didn't ramble too much.
Yeah, it sounds like you're asking what role does your own belief play in how the conversation goes?
Right, I know what role it's supposed to play in SD, but then comes the challenge.
Do you want to take that, Lisa? Do you want to say what you think?
Yeah, I have only a little bit of experience with it, but for me, like being an ex-Mormon and really diving into Mormonism and the beliefs around Mormonism, if I'm talking to an active Mormon, I feel like I know that what they're believing, like no, in quotes, I'm fairly confident that their beliefs are not true. And so I do have that kind of attitude going in, not to try to change their mind necessarily, but I do definitely have opinions on it, and I have strong feelings towards it, and I have seen how it has caused damage in a lot of people's lives, and I do care about these people. So I would love if they were able to let go of harmful beliefs that are potentially going to hurt them, even if they're not currently, versus if somebody makes a claim that I don't care about, then I mean, I try to stay neutral still and keep my opinion out of it. That's been one of the best things I've learned from doing street epistemology, is be able to just keep my beliefs quiet and just ask questions. I mean, unless they ask, but it's hard for me. But
I know, Lisa,
as a beginner, I'll get that. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying, I know that Lisa put up a conversation not too long ago with an ex-Mormon, and I felt like if I didn't know that you were an ex-Mormon, I wouldn't have known listening to that conversation. So you did a great job.
It didn't come up
hiding it. Yeah.
Well, I focus on the shoot the messenger idea from Peter Boghossian's book. Like I try to remind myself of that a lot.
Yeah. I think one of the things I hear you saying is like, it's hard to give up empathy, and it's not even clear, like, if we should, like, we have a real genuine concern for other people, and that should probably play a role in our decisions.
Yeah. And I don't want to cause damage. I don't want to hurt people. So I have to be very aware that I'm not attacking them, or that they feel like I don't like them, or I'm judging them, or any of that.
Yeah.
I appreciate your example, Lisa. That was some of the feedback I was looking for, simply because your situation is similar to mine in that sometimes I'm talking to people who were in a religious group that I formerly was in, and a group that is known for not having open discussions within that group. So when you start talking to them, you know a little bit of the script or the rhetoric, and you know which parts of their beliefs are actually potentially very damaging and which parts aren't, because not every religious belief is damaging, but some applied religious beliefs are damaging. And
Absolutely.
And in trying to just get a conversation going, it can be challenging. If they deal with a certain topic, then it kind of comes up in your emotions like, I would like to address that, but that's not the foundation of SD, my understanding.
Yes, because I have very strong opinions and very strong feelings about, well, Mormonism particularly, because that's what I know about. But yeah, and I don't want people to suffer like I had to. But it's hard to say that.
One thing you can do is you can take that concern and you can think to yourself, does this person really want an argument? Does this person really want to hear me preach the opposite of their beliefs? And they don't.
Exactly, they don't.
Ever.
Well, thanks so much for calling in, Roddy.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good to hear from you.
All right, so that's going to be it for us today. Thanks, everybody, for participating and calling in. And we do this every Saturday at the same time, so I hope to see you here next weekend.
Yeah, call in. Plan on it.
Yeah. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Chucky.